Alrighty, good afternoon and welcome to UCEA YouTube Live. My name is Brian Van Groningen. I'm a graduate research assistant and doctoral student at UCEA headquarters at the University of Virginia. I'm here today to interview Liz Hollingworth as part of her candidacy for the UCEA Executive Committee and as UCEA President-elect. Today, listeners will be hearing from Dr. Liz Hollingworth, Professor and Program Coordinator for the Educational Leadership Program and the Director of the Center for Evaluation and Assessment at the University of Iowa. Her research focuses on issues of school leadership, program evaluation, and assessment. Welcome, Dr. Hollingworth.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you for interviewing me for this, I'm going to call it a podcast.
All righty. Well, let's begin with our first question. So for our first one, please tell us about your background and your work as it relates to UCEA's mission and goals.
All right. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Liz Hollingworth, as Brian said, and I am a professor at the University of Iowa. I grew up in San Diego. I have a daughter who's a music major at Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois, which is also where I met my husband, who's a professor here at Iowa in the psych department. I am the director for the Center of Evaluation and Assessment, which is a team of faculty, staff, and grad students, and we conduct program evaluation and assessment. And usually we do that in collaboration with universities and school systems around the world. So my background really is on school leadership and program evaluation and assessment. The second half of your question was about how my work relates to UCEA's mission. So I looked up the mission, and here's what it says. It says, UCEA is a consortium of higher ed institutions committed to advancing the preparation and practice of educational leaders for the benefit of schools and children. So I think that my research evaluation background puts me in an excellent position to serve UCEA's mission. I have a line of research to evaluate prep programs and to study the policy and political consequences for policies that drive prep programs. So in addition, you know, I've had lots of experiences with the Learning and Teaching and Educational Leadership Special Interest Group. It's a joint special interest group with UCEA and AERA. For short, we call it the LTEL-SIG. So in the LTEL-SIG, I've served as secretary and program chair, and actually right now I serve as the past chair. And so our work in the SIG has been around the standards that guide our preparation programs and also how we evaluate those programs. So this was such a good fit for me, particularly given my background as the director of the Center for Evaluation and Assessment here at Iowa. So this is kind of precisely the sort of work that I do. So I feel like my background and my work are very much related to UCEA's mission and goals.
All right, thank you. Our second question is you've served for several years as a PSR and on the executive committee. And so tell us about your engagement in UCEA's governance.
Yeah, this is actually an interesting question. I served as the plenum rep for 5 years, and now I'm a member of the EC. So I've actually been actively involved with the plenum for 8 years. So I've for the last 3 years on the EC, I've served on a series of initiatives that are geared toward improving UCEA's reputation as an important resource for leadership research and development. So the EC is a really dynamic team of scholars who are all devoted to UCEA. Like every single one of us has a story about how UCEA has been critical to our formative years as professors. We each have our own stories about why we chose to serve. For me, I feel like the work on the plenum came at a really critical time in my career at Iowa. So this is about 8 years ago, right? You with me, Brian? 8 years ago, right when I started. All of the senior faculty, imagine this, every single one of them retired within the span of about 5 years, leaving me as the only tenure track faculty member in ed leadership for 2 really long years. I was the only one. So the plenum became this place for me to not only recruit some awesome new junior faculty members, but it really was like my savior, the people to talk to figure out what I was going to do next. And then on the EC, it sort of was, as I was talking about how hard this was, it kind of started this idea of the UCEA Program Design Network, the PDN, that so many of us are a part of now. So this was an initiative that came about during my time on the EC. It's designed to support collaborative engagement by ed leadership faculty who are working on leadership preparation design. In my case, it's redesign and improvement efforts. We ended up actually spending a lot of our energy, me and the new faculty we've hired, have been thinking about recruitment of new graduate students and working on diversifying our students. So this collaborative engagement it really aligns with UCEA's commitment to continuous improvement. We get to work in cross-institutional teams. And we've got, in my case, it's Casey Cobb from University of Connecticut. He's facilitating our networked improvement community. We call it a NIC. So our networked improvement community is doing a site visit to North Carolina to go visit Bonnie Fusarelli and her colleagues at NC State in January to see how they're doing it. So it's initiatives like this one that make me really passionate about UCEA's initiatives to support us in the work we do in our home institutions. You know, the other really cool thing we did this year was to create a little handbook for faculty with advice on how to get promoted and tenured. We worked with the Retirees in Action group of emeritus faculty, and I actually helped edit the chapter on getting tenure. I feel like it's going to be a really good resource for people in the future. So, you know, while I can't personally take responsibility for any of those initiatives, I feel like my time on the EC has been really useful.
So actually, we'll expand that a little bit with our third question. So in what other ways have you been engaged in UCEA besides in the governance structures as a PSR and as a member of the EC?
All right, so let's back way up. So from 2007 to 2010, I was the Innovative Programs column editor for the UCEA Review, which was it's a great opportunity for junior faculty to get to interview senior faculty in really awesome programs and find out what they're doing. I did that for 3 years, and then in July of 2010, I became the UCEA Associate Director for Publications, and I served in that capacity for about 7 years. It was a way to make sure that our important journals, you know, EAQ, JRLE, and JCEL, all got to move to new homes during the time that I was the Associate Director for Publications. We worked on having books that were handed out at the plenum. I edited a couple of books at that time. And after that, I joined the editorial board. Let's see, how did that work? I joined the EC after that. I've stayed on the editorial board for JCEL for about 7 years now, and I actually really enjoy it. From 2009 to 2014, I was engaged in UCEA and actually a unique opportunity. I was invited to be the first representative for UCEA on the Joint Committee on Standards for Educational Evaluation, which is a coalition of major professional associations in the United States and Canada that are concerned with the quality of evaluation. So I got to be the first person to make sure that UCEA was at the table with AERA and NCME and the APA and other, you know, alphabet soup of organizations who are concerned with evaluation in education. I did that from 2009 to 2014. In 2015, at our annual meeting in San Diego, I was honored with the UCEA Distinguished Service Award for my commitment to the organization. And it was particularly sweet because my dad was able to come to the ceremony because San Diego is my hometown.
All righty, thank you very much for that. And so we'll transition from your work with UCEA to your own personal work. And so our fourth question, if you could discuss with us your scholarship, research projects, teaching, and/or service, and how that can inform the work of UCEA, particularly the work of the EC.
Yeah, there are two main strands of my research that have they have both the potential and they have also I've used them to inform the work of the EC in the past 3 years. The first are the research studies that I've been doing with Ed Fuller on labor markets to understand the future of the principalship and the superintendency. I think as we're trying to figure out where we stand as a field, that kind of work is really important. I've also been active with a a very important strand of research with Terry Orr and others on the performance assessment for school leaders in Massachusetts. And that was actually a set of tasks that we designed to measure a candidate's readiness to serve as a building level leader. Right now, that assessment system is used to determine licensure in Massachusetts, and we've been expanding it to California and other places. So looking at alternative ways of evaluating candidates for the principalship, I think, are important. Where I've been really successful personally has been in engaging in statewide policy and advocacy here in Iowa. I feel like some of the lessons I've learned about building relationships with the Iowa Department of Education and the Iowa Governor's Office are really transferable and teachable, to be honest. For example, I'm on the Comprehensive Balanced Assessment System Committee here at Iowa that serves as a technical advisory committee for decisions about testing in the state. You'd be surprised how many departments of education are really hungry for professors to volunteer to serve, especially as our field is facing criticism and pressure from state and federal policymakers to be able to demonstrate preparation program quality. This kind of work really provides a foundation for decision makers. Tomorrow, actually, I'm being inducted into the Iowa Academy of Education, which is comprised of outstanding Iowa scholars whose work has earned respect and recognition among peers for making a significant contribution to the broad field of educational studies. I'm actually very proud of that, and I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. Well, congratulations for that. And
thanks,
our
Brian.
final question, our fifth and final question, if you would just share the reasons why you've chosen to run for UCEA president, and then what your vision is for the future of UCEA.
Okay, but I also want to say something about the voting procedure, if that's okay.
Sure.
So plenum members are going to be asked to vote for me twice. Once to elect me to a second term on the plenum so I can continue working on the initiatives I'm passionate about, and the second is to elect me president. So let me talk about my vision for the future of UCEA. I'm really excited to create a system for more formal mentoring for assistant professors. I think UCEA does a really good job supporting graduate students through the Clark Scholars and Jackson Scholars programs, but we're less organized around supporting junior faculty. And so if you'll humor me, I'm going to tell a short story. I have 3 junior faculty members at other institutions who over the years have asked me to serve as their mentors since I became a plenum rep. So I meet with them virtually a couple times a year and also in person at UCEA and AERA to check in with them. One of them actually came to my house this summer for a visit with his family as he was driving across country. I've helped another person navigate changing institutions as an assistant professor. And I'm working with a third assistant professor on both preparing manuscripts for publication and helping him get his new university to be a member of UCEA. I think international scholars working in U.S. institutions particularly are left out of this cross-institution mentoring. Plus, I think it's hard for people, particularly introverted people, to approach senior faculty to ask them to serve as their mentors. So I have some ideas about how to do that. I attended a UCEA special session the year I got tenure, so 2015. It was, no, not 2015, 2005. No, well, whatever. It was the year I got tenure, and it was designed for faculty who were just like me, recent associate professors. And what we did was we sat in a circle of chairs on the outside, and senior and emeritus faculty sat in chairs on the inside, and we did a timed speed dating kind of session where the associate professors moved around the circle after 5 minutes when the bell would ring, and then we'd speak to the next person. So what I remember about that was that we talked about how to go up for full professor. And with another person, I talked about how to navigate departmental politics. So this was before we had this official Retirees in Action Committee of emeritus professors that I talked about earlier. But what I want to do is have a session like this for assistant professors and then another one for associate professors set up at every UCEA. I think it would be a really great way to get advice about next steps in our career. So if I am elected president of UCEA, my first major job will be to create the program for the Houston conference. And I want to include these 2 mentoring sessions. So I envision 3 major initiatives I will work on as president-elect. First, I want to create sessions in the program for faculty that are similar to those in the Clark seminar to support researchers who have work in progress. So this is different than the 2 sessions I just talked about. This would be a third kind of new session. So these will be around the big problems facing our field, and people who are similarly interested can come together to collaborate, just like it happens in the Clark seminar. So these sessions would be hosted by senior faculty with both qualitative and quantitative experts who can facilitate a structured time to convene about the work we do. So people who are interested would send in their research questions and a statement about where they are so far with the work. This is something that's kind of like the evaluation task force that the LTEL-SIG used to host at every UCEA, where anyone who was conducting research on preparation program evaluation would convene, and we'd use that time to plan future projects. In fact, the Inspire suite of surveys came out of that task force. My second of my 3 initiatives, Houston just endured a Category 4 Hurricane Harvey. I would like to set aside time in the plenum for a day of service. And I'm thinking that this would be more than just cleaning up or something physical, but making use of the talents of our membership by offering up some co-teaching or professional development opportunities to build relationships with schools that last past our week in Houston for UCEA. I want to reach out to everyone in UCEA to get feedback, especially from people who are from Houston and who live there now, so that we can maximize our potential impact on the schools and not waste this unique opportunity to really make a difference. And lastly, if I'm elected, I want to reduce the number of topics that we ask the plenum session members to work on. I think by narrowing the focus, we can work more deeply and have real influence. One of the things I do in my class is I apply adult learning principles to how I ask my students to work together. And I want to take that to the plenum. For example, I want to make sure that the plenum members have all of the materials well in advance of the conference so that people can read them and be ready with ideas. And it would give people a chance to prepare. And it'll also make the plenum so much more meaningful for participants because it's such a great opportunity to network. And I want to make sure that we allow plenty of time for that. So those are my 3 ideas if I am elected president of UCEA.
All righty. Thank you very much for your time and thoughtful responses, Dr. Hollingworth. We certainly appreciate it.
Well, and I want to thank you for interviewing me, Brian. I'm looking forward to seeing you in Denver in a couple of weeks. And hey, if anyone has any questions for me, you can feel free to email me up and we'll have a follow-up conversation.
Excellent. So this interview will be archived on the UCEA YouTube channel. Listeners can access or share the interview at any time. And we also encourage listeners to post comments and questions about the interview in the comments section under the video on the UCEA YouTube channel. Thank you very much and stay tuned for our next interview.